My people, how far now? It's your boy Corey on the mic. That was Timaya. I'm a big fan of Timaya. You can see my sign over there. It says I can't keep myself. That's from Timaya's jam. Even my intro song is, shout out to POG on the beats. He produced a rendition of the song, but it's actually Timaya's song. It's called I Can't Keep Myself. That was Don Dada that I just played. Anyway, my people, how far? What's going on? What's popping? You can see from the thumbnails, I was planning on talking about the Olympics today. I don't know if anyone else has been following as closely. The weird thing about the Olympics is that I don't know if anyone watched the opening ceremony. It was empty. It was an empty stadium. There's no one at the Olympics because of COVID. So it's not the same. The ratings, at least I know here in the United States, I don't know where, what it's like in other parts, but here in the United States, the ratings for the Olympics are not looking very good. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that fans are not in the stadium. So it kind of sucks. And then another problem with the fact that I haven't really been able to follow, because I've always loved the Olympics, but I haven't been able to follow because I think it's the timing of the Olympics. I'm working while the Olympics is on, or some of my favorite sports comes on at like the weird times of the night because of the time difference. So it's been kind of all over the place, man. I think the Olympics took a big hit in terms of engagement and viewership, but it's been taking even more hits, man. Let's see what we have here. Can anyone guess the number one followed sport in the U.S.? Yeah, I think everyone knows this. Is gymnastics. Simone Biles, man, she dropped out today. That was like a big story. And we'll get to that in a bit. But before I get to that, I do want to go over the medal counts at the Olympics right now. Looks like Japan is number one with 10 gold medals. They have 18 total. The U.S. has 25 total, but only 9 gold medals. China and ROC, which is Russia, they're kind of right there behind the U.S. Let's see if there are any African countries that are competing here, man. Okay, we got Tunisia. We got 2 for Tunisia. Let's see which ones they have here. Okay. Surprise Olympic swimming gold. Tunisia, interesting. And who's this guy? Let's see here. I want Tunis. No, I can't find it. Shocks world by winning Olympic gold. Long shot Tunisian swimmer Ahmed Hafnaoui shocks world by winning gold. Interesting. In swimming. Which one? 18-year-old was just supposed to be gaining some much needed Olympic experience in 2020, but apparently he decided to move up his timeline. Oh, shocker. Okay. With a surprise win in the men's 400-meter freestyle. There it is. Let's see what this was about. Oh, yeah, sorry. My internet is be acting up. I need to fix my internet. Something's going on with it. Anytime I connect my hard drive, the internet craps out. All right, let's see what other African countries are out here competing. I know Ivory Coast won for, I think, Taekwondo. Okay, Egypt got 2. Let me see. Sub-Saharan Africa. South Africa got 2 silvers. Interesting. Of course, Nigeria is nowhere to be found. I wonder if the Tigers can pull one through. A bronze or something. Anything. All right, but moving on, man. Moving on to the cocoa of what I was trying to discuss today. It's this girl, man, Simone Biles. I think it was like one of the biggest stories today. She withdrew from gymnastics finals. And it was said she did it to protect the team and herself. One of the things that was referenced was mental health. So let's read through this AP article here really quickly. She was scheduled to do an Amanar vault that requires a round of back handspring onto the table, followed by 2.5 twists. Biles instead did just 1.5 twists with a big leap forward after landing. She sat down and talked to U.S. team doctor Marcia Fausting, then headed to the back while the rest of the Americans moved on to uneven bars without her. When Biles returned several minutes later, she hugged her teammates and took off her bar grips. And just like that, her night was over. This was a pretty big deal because Simone Biles is, I think, she's probably the biggest Olympian since Michael Phelps. The biggest American Olympian since Michael Phelps. I think that's safe to say. Shit, I have this in my ear. I forgot to take it out. So everyone was looking forward to this gymnastics, and gymnastics is huge in the United States. I mean, that's a given. Everyone was really looking forward to this. They qualified. She was in the qualifiers. She pretty much she pretty much put them in the qualifiers with her performance. She's known to be probably the greatest gymnast of all time, at least female gymnast of all time, possibly greatest gymnast of all time, period. Because I think the women gymnasts are considered better, I think. Not sure. But this was a big deal because here she was. It sounded like, and it didn't sound like it was an injury. It sounded like she maybe had something to do with some confidence of some kind, and maybe she felt the best way to help her team was to step out of it. Maybe she was in her head. She did mention mental health, and this is her doing her presser. Oh, please, I hope this thing works. Internet's the pack up. Crap. Don't worry, I'll insert it.
Thankfully, and that's why I took a step back, because I didn't want to do something silly out there and get injured. So I thought it was best if these girls took over and did the rest of the job, which they absolutely did. They're Olympic silver medalists now, and they should be really proud of themselves for how well they did last minute having to go in. And it's been really stressful, this Olympic Games. I think just as a whole, not having an audience, there are a lot of different variables going into it. It's been a long week. It's been a long Olympic process. It's been a long year. Put mental health first, because if you don't, then you're not going to enjoy your sport and you're not going to succeed as much as you want to. So it's okay sometimes to even sit out the big competitions to focus on yourself, because it shows how strong of a competitor and person that you really are.
If she was having issues with her mental health, she wanted to protect herself. And the problem with what happened was that when she pulled out right when they were in the thick of things. I think there was a tournament where it's three. Usually it's like three of them that have to represent. It was the team tournament. You know, they always have the individual, then they have the team. But she pulled out, and some other girl, some 20-year-old girl, had to come in at the last minute. So some people are criticizing her, and they're saying that, you know, she kind of sabotaged the team. I don't necessarily see it that way. I think I think mental health is definitely something that people should take seriously. And if she really felt like the best way she could help the team was to, if she really felt like the best way to help the team was to pull out of it, then so be it. You know, sometimes it just bees like that, man. The problem, however, is that, see, this isn't the first time this is happening. Something recently happened too to another sports superstar. You guys know her, Naomi Osaka. She's American, but she's also Japanese. She was representing Japan, and you know there's been a big deal made about her in the last couple years. She won one Grand Slam. She's a tennis player. For those that don't know, if you don't know that who Naomi Osaka is, please just Google. She's a tennis player. She's won one Grand Slam. She had an opportunity to win a second Grand Slam, and she pulled out of it. And guess what she cited? Yeah, you guessed it. Mental health. So it seems like there's like a trend developing here. So that happened. Now she was also an Olympian. In fact, she helped light the torch in Japan. She was like considered like the biggest athlete, and it was kind of a big deal because she's half Japanese, she's half black, and I think it's probably the first time you've had someone of color be such a big representative of a country like Japan. And, it was their opportunity to tout how, their diversity. But she fell out in the third round of the tennis tournament in the Olympics. She fell out. This was supposed to be one of the biggest stars of the entire Olympics. So that's two big stars. And that's not even counting Sha'Carri. Because I'm telling you, I'm pretty sure Sha'Carri would have won that thing. I mean, the way she was looking on that track. But that's another story for another day. So you're starting to see a trend here. And she's not the only one. There have been other athletes too. I think it's, what's his name? Basketball player. Kyrie Irving too. He took off sometime last season, citing mental health. And this isn't really common. This isn't something that used to happen a lot back then. There is this one article that I wanted to pull up. You already know now. They're going to come up with their think pieces. This one is Simone Biles, Naomi Osaka signal new era of prioritizing mental health. Damn, they're quick with these think pieces, man. This is Michael Rosenberg 7 hours ago. That's what it's talking about. This is a new era in sports, and it might take some time for the fog to clear. Simone Biles, the best gymnast in the world by far, who looked like she could dominate the competition without thinking about it, pulled out of the Tokyo Olympics team final Tuesday. Naomi Osaka, probably the best tennis player in the world when she's on her game, gave up her chance to win 2 Grand Slam events this year to focus on her mental health. These two are the two most obvious examples, but far from the only ones. Kyrie Irving took a leave. That's what I was talking about last year. This year, for reasons he chose not to share. It all seems unprecedented, like athletes can just walk away at any moment and have people applaud them for it. For people at a certain age who are used to certain ethos, it is jarring. But we have seen athletes step away from the competition for non-physical reasons before. Jim Brown did it. Michael Jordan did it. Jim Brown was a winner, though, when he did it. Michael Jordan had won 3 championships when he did it. But I think there's a case to be made that, look, some people really just need to take a mental break. And if it means saving them their mental headspace, then so be it. I think that should be respected. I think where I draw the line, though, is when athletes start getting when people start praising them for moves like this. There's nothing wrong with commending someone being aware enough to know when to take mental breaks. That's one thing, but sometimes you see people actually start to praise these people like they did something brave, and I get it. It takes some level of courage, but I don't really get what's so brave about stepping away from the game. And this is coming from the courageous part too. If there's something that I should be able to identify, it is courage. And some people may argue that it takes a lot more courage, or it takes a lot more mental fortitude to be able to overcome whatever mental lapses or breaks that's going on in your head and still perform. Now, in the case of Simone Biles, I think that's tricky, because if she felt like the best way she could help her team was to step away, then I think that's a good thing. But there's a certain generation of people that feel like sometimes you just have to power through it, and that's the only way. If you're being paid all these dollars and endorsement deals, the least you can do is actually, perform, even if it means you fail. The fact that you tried, some people would argue that that in itself is the brave thing to do. In other words, being willing to put yourself out there, regardless of not being on your best form. But like I said, with Simone Biles, because it was a team effort, I can kind of take exception to that, because maybe she did make the right decision. And these things can be debated one way or the other. Either way, I don't fault her for what she did. I don't fault her for taking a step down. What I don't like is how sports in general has become this divisive thing. And it's across the board. We saw it in the Euro 2020s also. I don't know if you guys remember, but it was England. They were playing Italy in the Euro 2020 recently. And I'm sure you guys remember there were penalty kicks at the end of that final match. Huge game. England had been talking about it's coming home. It was like a big deal in England. And England soccer fans, man, they're some of the wildest peeps out there. European soccer fans are out there in general. In fact, any fan that goes to extreme lengths to show their fandom, I find those people a little bit, you know what I'm saying? But in the penalty kicks, 5 penalty kicks, 3 England players, the last 3, Rashford, I think he's Bukayo Saka, Omo Niger, Nigerian descent, better recognize. It was Jadon Sancho. They missed their penalties, and it cost them the game. It's almost like, you knew that there were going to be these idiot racist fans that would take it out on them and point out their race and say racist things. That's a given. That has always happened. And I think there was a point where people just didn't even pay that stuff attention. Now, if it ever got too out of hand, the league or, like in the EPL, for instance, they usually take steps. Like they would ban that fan or they'll take steps. But the fact remains is that these are nobodies. These aren't like influential people. These aren't people that have like huge voices or anything. But guess what happened? The media they figured out something. They have a formula. Hate sells. Hate gets clicks. If it has something to do with someone's race, racism, anything like that, or any kind of ism, they know that it gets clicks. So what they do is they echo out some of these inconsequential people like these fans that if no one would have known about them except maybe some silos on the internet. But it's almost like they echoed those people's voices, and they actually, in a way, they kind of elevated those people's voices. Till today, we still don't know who these people are. If you read this article, it still doesn't tell you. Like, I was trying to go through it, like, who are these people? Who are they? But what happens is that because they know that these kind of stories get clicks, stories that have to do with like people's race and, people's things that are sacred to some people, they know that it gets clicks. And as a result, these kind of stories get pumped out in the media. CNN reported on it. There were so many people that reported on it, and no one could still identify who these racists were. And it's like, why are we spending so much energy and time? So what ends up happening is that those people, these media heads, they tend to echo these racist voices. They say, oh yes, there are racist online taunts, blah blah blah. And then all these people, all these other people, like even Gareth Southgate, their coach. And I'm not saying he's doing it for the wrong reasons. I'm just saying it gives people an opportunity to be able to come out and stand against racism. It's almost like this performative, nonsensical thing that people do. So people now start coming out in droves and start rebuking these races that we still don't even know about. Look at this person, for instance, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge. I am sickened by the racist abuse aimed at England players after last night's match. It is totally unacceptable that players have to, like, we get it. Like, we all, racists are bad. Why are we giving them so much air? Why are we giving them so much oxygen? It makes no sense to me. Again, it comes down to hate gets clicks. They call it, there's a term for it, rage bait. People know that these are the kind of things that people like to, they like to go in and, fight the bad guy and fight the enemy. And it's like, who are these people that are fighting? I still don't know who they are. Why are we giving them so much attention? Look at this one, Gary Lineker. Booing and racially abusing the fine young men that play for our country have given us so much pleasure and joy over the last month is not being an England fan. I mean, just, it's like an opportunity for people to kind of just show. It's almost like an opportunity for them to perform and signal how not racist they are. It's pointless. It's pointless. And it's the media that does these things. So these things happen, and then you have some people on the other side take it even farther. Like I was seeing articles where it was like they were calling these players that missed the goals heroes. And you start to wonder, like, hero for missing a goal? I don't get it. Like, look, we need to understand that sports, soccer, gymnastics, all these things, they're not essential workers. These players, they're really not. They're not essential businesses. Like, if we couldn't watch soccer for the next year, yeah, people will be pissed, people will be bored, but we'll find something else to do. Like, then no one's life is being saved because they watch soccer. It's just another form of distraction. And it just happens to be that, these people are skilled, yes, and it's nice to watch, but it's not a necessity. And that's what people haven't realized yet. Haven't people woken up over the past year with this COVID pandemic and realized there are some things that are essential to our being, to our living? And yes, sports is good. Sports is all well and good. But when we start, lionizing and turning some of these people into heroes and putting all this pressure on them, it's like, what are we doing? Like, and that's why I can't fault some of these players for having all these mental issues, because there's so much pressure. It's like everything is so divisive. People are willing to fight. Everything has become so political. And it's so bizarre, man. It's bizarre. And I don't remember when sports was this divisive. I really don't. And it's strange. It's strange that it's gotten so heated. Yeah, I don't get it, man. I really don't. I really don't get it. I wish people wouldn't put so much, sometimes I think the level of, and don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of Chelsea. I love rooting for them. I'm a big fan of Philadelphia Eagles. I have my sports teams that I would root for. And when I watch sports matches, I tend to root for the underdog. So don't get me wrong. I love me some sports, but it's not by force. It's not do or die. It's not, you know what I'm saying? So there's no reason for us to put so much pressure on these people. And even like when you go online and you see people, you go on places like Twitter, let's say someone loses, like I think it was LeBron James that lost, and you see some of the acrimony that's directed towards him from these fans, and you're just like, what's wrong with these ones? You know what I'm saying? But that's as much energy that as I'll give those people. We're not now going to now start trying to put them on a pedestal and making them seem like they're more important than they are. And that's where the media comes into play. That's where they become opportunistic, because they know that hate gets clicks. I want people to be able to see through these things, man, because these things are real. Yeah. So I think that's what's going on. It's the media, and there's something else going on too that's probably contributing to some of these players being so stressed out. COVID. we were on lockdown for a year, you know, and I think it's bringing all kinds of issues out of people. I really do think it's had an effect on people, and it's not even only sports athletes. It's regular people at work, you know, where they've come out of this lockdown and they're just not the same. So as much as I extend all the empathy, some of these players that are playing under so much pressure, I think it's also important as fans to be able to just have some perspective and not it doesn't always have to be so do or die. It really doesn't. Like, sports doesn't have to be so divisive. Sports is what's supposed to actually bring us together. Is what gives us camaraderie. You know, it's how people spark up conversations. You know, sports do have like a real good in society. I wish we wouldn't ruin it and keep falling into these clickbait traps that, you know, media personalities set up for us. And it's not just, you know, and when I talk about the media, I'm talking about print media, I'm talking about sports pundits, the same thing. You know, you see sports pundits, they know that the only way they will drive clicks is by saying something insane and something extreme, you know, and then it becomes a talking point. Stop falling for this stuff, man. Let's just enjoy the game and let these let these athletes, let them try to enjoy this thing too. Let them play. Let them do what they have to do, and let's try not to be so extreme. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, but I think that's all I have for today, man. I enjoy doing this thing, honestly. So before I go, please don't forget, please like, subscribe, hit the bell so that every time I post a video, you're gonna get notified. Thank you.